Hello everyone and welcome back to the only series out there that brings you the stories of Magic the Gathering and combines them with their physical cards you can win. I'm Simon, and this is Friday Night Lore. So, as many of you are aware, I'm leaving for a road trip to California in a few days. Since me and my friends will be driving from Baltimore, Maryland, this will be a pretty lengthy trip. As a result, I won't be able to produce any new Friday Night Lore episodes for the next couple of weeks. I know it's a bummer, but I can't make these in advance as I'm doing with other videos because I like to select the winners on a weekly basis. So, to hold you guys over for this little dry spell, I'm going to go over a very special lore topic on Tarkir. It's an event known as the Khanfall. Before Vale went back in time and saved Ugin the Spirit Dragon from an untimely death at the hands of Bolas, Tarkir was ruled by clans led by their Khan leaders. Tarkir was also inhabited by dragons who often met at odds with their human counterparts. As Ugin would eventually fall to Bolas, his powerful dragon tempest would cease and no new dragons would be brought to Tarkir. As a result, the Khans and their clans would eventually drive them to extinction. This wasn't entirely to the benefit of the people of Tarkir, however, for their world would be consumed by the warring clans' lust for conflict. But this is not the history we see on Tarkir as it stands today. Something happened to save the dragons. This was of course the story of Fate Reforged. Vale was successful in saving Ugin, who retreated to a Hedron cocoon in order to heal his wounds. As the spirit dragon was unconscious, his tempest worked with a will of its own, basically going into overdrive and ushering more dragons than the plane had ever seen before. It's been several years since Sarkhan saved Ugin, and now, the 5 ancient Khans of the Tarkir clans face a dangerous chapter in their histories. Alicia, who smiles at death, Khan of the Mardu, has led her people to great victories over her dragon enemies. Her clan faced against the great thunder drake Kolagon and her brood, who have been attacking their camps and feeding on their people. While she has killed many dragons herself, giving her the war name Who Smiles at Death, Alicia has noticed that the dragon's numbers are ever increasing. Yasova Dragonclaw, leader and Khan of the Temur, has recently come into contact with a mysterious man, a man who was a dragon himself. She was besieged by a spirit who promised her a world free of dragons, one which the Temur would rule without question, if she would only lead the voice to the center of the dragon tempest. She was attempting to lead Bolas to Ugin, so that the dragonless future would become reality. As she witnessed the events which transpired, she saw Ugin become encased in a hard cocoon, and realized that the tempest would never stop. She attempts to fight off the dragon Atarka and her brood, but the Temur are losing ground. Tessigur, the arrogant leader of the decadent Sultai clan, has been unable to control his people as of late. The demons who have granted the Sultai with wealth and power, the Rakshasa, have grown tired of this young prince who no longer believed he needed their magic. The demons left the Sultai to their fates, and with them, left the Naga. With his kingdom crumbling beneath him, Tessigur's palace is attacked by the Dragon Lord Silumgar and his poisonous brood. In a selfish bid to save his own life, Tessigur signs a treacherous pact. Rayhan, elected Khan of the Abzan, is in the most difficult position of all. She was quickly assigned to the Khanship as a result of her former Khan's actions. Dagatar had given in and bowed to the Dragon Lord Dramoka. His actions would save his people, but at the cost of losing their traditional kin trees. The Abzan as a people were divided. A majority were willing to give up their kin trees to assure their safety, while others saw this as unacceptable. Rayhan now stands as half a Khan, controlling a tenth of a clan who still want to fight the dragons. And finally we have Shu Yun, Khan of the Jeskai and the wisest human on Tarkir. He and his clan are at odds with the dragon Ojutai and his brood of ice dragons. While the Khan thinks Ojutai is an amazing creature and teacher of values he also believes in, their conflicts are too much to look past. Shu Yun has seen the dragon broods expanding and knows that their world could be coming to an end if something isn't done. That is why he has proposed something which has never been done before, a meeting between all 5 Khans of Tarkir. As the meeting begins, Shu Yun expects there to be a lot of conflict between the 5 Khans. Tessigur seems to be annoying everyone, while Alicia seems to just be ticked off in general. But important work needs to be done. They must pool their efforts and find a way to stop the dragons before all is lost. Each Khan is given a chance to talk freely, but what Yasova has to say caught the ears of all the Khans. She told them of the man she had met, the dragon called Nicobolus, and what she witnessed so many years ago. Each of the other Khans began to blame Yasova for their current station. If she hadn't led Nicobolus to Ugin, then the tempest would have never intensified. Yasova regretted her actions as soon as she took them. She realized what Ugin meant for Tarkir. He was the balance and soul of the entire plane. In her attempt to selfishly end the dragons, she had brought destruction to them all. Tarkir was shocked to hear that there was a way to end the storms altogether, and placed his vote on going to Ugin and killing him themselves. Rayhan wanted to go and heal the spirit dragon, in hopes that he would be thankful and return balance to the plane. Alicia wanted to deal with the Broodlords directly, combining the forces of the clans to end their reigns. Shu Yun understood how essential Ugin was to their world, and was glad to hear that he still lived. He would never help aid an attempt on the spirit dragon's life, and nor did he seek to kill the Broodlords. If they killed the Broodlords, it would be no different from the dragons killing the Khans, and so they must seek some kind of balance through Ugin. Yasova put an end to most of their ideas, claiming that she had already attempted to break into Ugin's cocoon with no success. She said the magic used to house the dragon was like nothing she had ever seen before, and not of their world. No amount of strength or magic could harm it, and nor was she able to heal Ugin through it. They were stuck waiting for the spirit dragon to heal on his own. Tarkir proclaimed that they had no time to wait. They must kill him and end the dragons now. And with that, a roar was heard in the distance. Dragons were coming. The Khans were confused. None of them had traveled with their clan's flag revealed, nor were they accompanied by a large force. There should have been no way that this meeting place could have been discovered. As the sounds of dragons approached them, Shu Yung saw the broods of both Sulamgar and Ojutai flying in formation. Never before had two different broodlords banded together like this. The Khans came to the conclusion that one of them had betrayed them all. Many turned their eyes towards Shu Yun. They knew of his devotion to his clan. He would easily betray them all to the dragons if it meant his own clan's survival. Shu Yun assured them that he was not the cause of this. He bore a magical tattoo for killing many of Ojutai's brood, and thus, no dragon would ever suffer him to live, let alone work with him on anything. As they looked around the room in speculation, they noticed that Tarkir was no longer with them. Only his guards remained. It was clear at this point who had betrayed them, informing the dragon Sulamgar of their meeting in exchange for a special place by the Dragon Lord's side. There was no time for the Khans to squabble, however. With Tarkir making his escape, the four remaining leaders had to prepare for battle. Alicia, Rayhan, and Yasova all fought as hard as they could against the numerous broodlings, while Shu Yun was busy transporting scrolls which had been written by his personal scribe. These tomes told the story of all that had transpired during their meeting, and contained the knowledge of what would become a lost history. As the other three Khans became overrun, Rayhan told Alicia and Yasova to escape while her and her men held off the dragons. Alicia and Yasova agreed and made their way to a small boat, while Rayhan ultimately succumbed to the icy, corrosive breath of the broodlings. The Abzin Khan had fallen, and with her fell the resisting Abzin who had refused to give up their kin trees. Shu Yun made his way to a window and leaped from it, hoping to reach a safe area beneath the fortress to store the scrolls he was carrying. Knowledge was the most precious thing to him and his clan. This knowledge must never be lost, and so, it must avoid the clutches of the dragons. He fell from the sky but accidentally landed on the back of one of Ojutai's broodlings. Calmly, Shu Yun made his way to the beast's head, and with one precise jab, he killed the dragon and set it falling to the ground. When he landed, he rushed to the deepest caverns of the mountain fortress. There, he secured the scrolls in a room and magically sealed it. As he emerged back onto the battlefield, he was immediately confronted by Ojutai himself. These two had met each other before in combat. Both respected their abilities and values. Shu Yun said that he would love to fight Ojutai again, but that he had another proposition for the dragon. He wanted what was best for his clan, and he was willing to give up his life and the lives of all the men who had slain dragons in order to assure their safety. The great Ojutai agreed to these terms, and with his cold breath, he froze the Jeskai Khan to death. As the battle cooled down, Ojutai forced Sulamgar and his brood to leave the Jeskai land and return to the swamps from which they came. Ojutai had an Avan translator announce that the Jeskai were no more, and that all those who bore the Ghostfire tattoo would be executed. The Dragon Lord also commanded that Shu Yun's scribe go over all the records and erase the phrase Khan and Jeskai from history. Since Shu Yun hid the scrolls of these events himself, the scribe had no idea where they were, and thus could not alter them. Alicia parted ways with Yusova and rode back to her people, the Mardu. She was accompanied by 2 of her most trusted riders as she returned home. Finally reaching her lands, she felt the air pressure drop around her and saw clouds gathering in the distance. This was the sign of a dragon attack in her eyes. Kolaghan was approaching. Her men prepared to fire arrows and throw spears at the Dragon Lord. They only waited for the order. As the Thunder Drake barreled towards them, Alicia told them to keep holding their marks until the precise moment. As lightning spewed from the dragon's mouth, Alicia and Kolaghan's eyes met for the briefest of time. With that contact, the lightning ceased and Kolaghan stopped her attack. Her men were baffled, but Alicia was aware of what had just happened. Kolaghan didn't want to kill the clan, for if she did, she would have killed their Khan right there and then. Yet, Alicia could never bend her knee to a dragon, or anyone else for that matter. The Mardu bowed to no one. That's when it hit her. Kolaghan didn't want servants. She wanted them to keep up with her incredible pace. The Mardu wouldn't die, they would evolve. Yusova Dragonclaw also returned to her land and people where they were still being feasted upon by Tarkir and her brood. She no longer had the strength to continue her fight against the dragons, so she decided to try a different tactic. Yusova went out and hunted the largest mammoth in the area and presented the meat to Tarkir herself. Tarkir stared at both the Khan and mammoth hungrily, but the Dragon Lord decided to feast from the mammoth. Yusova declared that she no longer wished to fight the dragon and would continue to feed her bountiful amounts of food if she only spared her people. Walking away from the dragon, Yusova could only hope that Tarkir agreed to the terms. As for the treacherous Tessigur, he was carried from the battlefield by one of Selimgar's broodlings and returned to his Sultai palace. There, he found that Selimgar himself had barged into his throne room and was sleeping around his coveted seat of power. By the dragon's side, he found the Naga, who had aligned themselves with Selimgar after abandoning him. Tessigur was furious. He made a deal with this disgusting dragon. He would help him kill off the clans, and in exchange, he would continue to live as the Sultai Khan. He refused to see his throne being drooled on by Selimgar, and decided to wake him up, a task which not even his servants looked forward to. Selimgar was agitated by this small human's attempt to bully him. After all, he was only alive because he hadn't bored the dragon yet. With a roar, the Naga rushed over to Tessigur and placed a solid gold collar and chain around his neck. Selimgar told the former ruler that the word Khan was now dead. Tessigur pleaded, saying that they had a deal and that he was supposed to serve at a special place by the dragon's side. Selimgar assured him that his place was one of utmost pride. Tessigur was Selimgar's finest trophy. And that's the story of how the Khans fell to the dragons over 1,000 years ago in Tarkir's past. Since then, the dragon clans evolved personalities and traditions all their own. The clans live on through these new dragon clans. The names may have changed, but their values and spirits still endure. So, there you go guys, the story behind the Khanfall and how the Dragon Lords rose to power on Tarkir. Now, since I'm gonna be gone for a few weeks, this FNL giveaway will be extra special. Rather than giving away a single card, this week's prize will be all of the Ancient Khans. Yep, that's right, the winner of this week's FNL will receive a copy of Alicia Who Smiles at Death, Degatar the Adamant, Shu Yun the Silent Tempest, Yusova Dragonclaw, and Tessigur the Golden Fang. Remember, to enter, all you have to do is be a subscriber to this channel and comment on this video. At the end of the week, I'll use a random number generator to choose a winner from the comments and announce them at the end of next week's FNL episode, so stay tuned to see if you've won. Now, moving on, let's reveal the winner of last week's Friday Night Lore. Last time, we went over the lore of one of the current Khans of Tarkir, Anafenza, and discovered how the events of Fate Reforged changed her storyline. And so, everyone who commented on that video entered for their chance to win a copy of Anafenza the Foremost. So the winner of last week's FNL and new owner of this Anafenza the Foremost card is... Alex Zahak. Congratulations to the YouTube user named Alex Zahak. Sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong in some way. If you could, please check your private messages on YouTube. There, you'll find a message from me with all the information I need to send you this card. If you don't find it in your messages, check your spam, for it may have ended up there. The sooner you reply to that message, the sooner I can have this card shipped to you. In any case, I hope you all enjoyed this week's FNL. If you did, please give it a like, share, and sub to the channel. It really goes a long way in supporting me and future content. As always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.